Gentlemen, this is such an incredible, what a film, what a project. I'm going to start with you, and let's talk about how did this journey begin for you?
Well, about 20 years into my career, I had done space history, aerospace history for 20 years. In the late 90s, I decided I wanted to write a biography, and I really wanted to write one about an astronaut. And Armstrong was the one that interested me the most, because no one had written about him. I knew he was a very private man, and so I wrote him a letter and told him who I was. And it's a long story, because it took about 2 years for me to convince him, you know, that he should go along with this. I think in the end he knew from my earlier work that I would take his engineering seriously. You know, I would take the technical details. I wasn't just going to write some sensationalistic thing about the moon landing. It was going to be about his entire life. And so, yeah, I think it was if I had not had the experience of writing on the subject for 20 years previous to approaching him, I wouldn't have had much chance.
Why, I was going to ask you about that, why did it take him so long to sit down with somebody? I know he was a private guy, but why is it? Was there a reason that he just didn't want to sit down with somebody? Or?
Well, I think, you know, after he became first man, you know, this international icon, the pressures that were on him. I mean, he didn't want the spotlight. He didn't want to be a celebrity. But I mean, I've looked through his correspondence at Purdue University, and for weeks after the moon landing, he was getting 10,000 pieces of mail a day. You know, how do you respond to all those requests for photos and pictures and appearances and everything? And he did his best. He did the best that he could, but he wanted to lead a normal life if he could. You know, that's one reason he resigned from NASA, had moved to Cincinnati to teach at the university. He moved to a farm. You know, he just tried to get away from that attention. And so I think that was part of it, you know, and then a lot of people had asked him to do one thing, and then really were trying to get him to do another thing. So there was a level of suspicion that he had about people until he got to know them well. And I think it was also, he was a busy man. You know, he knew that, I mean, at age 70, he was still very active in corporate boards and different things. And so, you know, his life wasn't over, and I think that might have been part of it too. He wasn't just quite ready for it.
What intrigues you the most about this story? Again, I'll say it's such a powerful film, and I loved it. Absolutely loved seeing this. But what intrigued you the most about this story?
You know, as I got into the research, I was just shocked by how little I knew about Neil Armstrong. I was shocked, you know.
It's the 18th hole.
Yeah, exactly.
There goes Tiger. I'm kidding.
That's hilarious. You know, Damien had initially been super interested in getting at the reality of spaceflight and the terror of it, and what these guys, clearly had to, the mindset they clearly had to be in order to strap themselves into those very tiny cockpits. And I thought that was fascinating. But when I got into Jim's book, and I realized how much loss and tragedy had been really a huge part of Neil's, journey from 61 through to 69. First losing his daughter, and then losing some of his closest colleagues in a very short span. And Neil himself almost died 2 times that we that have been well documented, and probably innumerable times other than that. I was just struck by the grace, and the ability to bear up under those tragedies and losses, and it just made me feel even more appreciative and inspired by him. And I thought that perhaps a portrait of him that showed that side, it's really. It shows us a kind of leadership that I feel like sometimes is sorely lacking these days, and it just inspired me.